get going. There is the chat functionality in Zoom, and there also is a mute functionality. If you have a lot of background noise, go ahead and mute your screen, and then there'll be a time when we can take it off mute and be able to share a little bit about our stories. All right. Elise, yay. All right, we're started recording. I have 12:17, you guys? All right. So I just want to say welcome. I'll get this ball rolling. I'm Ginger. I'm the executive director from West Michigan. And we've been doing a series called Step Up Michigan. And it really is just exploring different topics that we thought would be helpful at this time of going virtual with March for Babies. And so we're just going to start off with just a few basics to get out of the way. This call's topic is going to be, figure out how to advance the slide. Connection and impact in a virtual world. So we're going to talk a little bit about story and how to use the connections that we have to make us authentically tell our stories and own our own experiences. So we have roll call. The Michigan March for Dimes staff is the host of this, and most of us are on the call. A few of us are not, but if your site director is on here, you can say hi, and you probably have heard from them in the last few days, and that's our crew. That's our big and mighty Michigan staff. So we wanted to cover the COVID-19 story as we get going here. And so March of Dimes actually has done an extraordinary job of stepping up to the plate for the COVID-19 pandemic, and they have couched their work around the same three areas that we always do our work in: research, advocacy, and education. In the research facet, we actually opened up the COVID-19 Fund, which is a donation fund where people can specifically give money to try to help find a vaccine that's safe for pregnant and lactating moms. It's my understanding from our research medical director at March for Dimes that often that's overlooked when they develop these vaccines for moms and children during something like a pandemic or the flu vaccine or whatever they're working on. They often overlook the pregnant and lactating moms. We also have been working on advocacy for interventions, so things like the CARES bill, local stuff in Michigan that we've been raising our voice to. That has all been happening. You can sign up for our advocacy alerts and then get notice when those alerts are happening. And that's when we need you to rally and like give either your federal or your state officials a call or an email and join in the work. In terms of education, we have, oh my gosh, there is so much. We may have to do a different call on it at some other time. But in education, we have had so much stuff happen over this pandemic timing. We've actually taken our NICU family support program and completely virtualized it. We virtualized it at like Helen DeVos Children's Hospital, but we've also opened up national support groups for NICUs across the nation. Families that are in the NICUs right now can sign up to be a part of classes and support classes, because a lot of those support structures got taken out when COVID came in. And so now we've been able to offer some of that nationwide, which is tremendous. So I wanted to give you an idea too in terms of local impact. We are the mighty Michigan Mitten team, and I think we're really proud of the work that we've been able to do. We have a lot of partners in our hospitals, nurses, and people that we work with all the time, and this is like the hour of need. And so we've been communicating with them all along. Sometimes they needed an educational piece like a birth plan document. Sometimes they needed a lunch. Sometimes they needed hand sanitizer. And we as a staff here in Michigan have absolutely answered that call. Some of our chefs from our signature chefs have stepped in. We've had breweries that have given us hand sanitizer. So we've been really able to connect and be in touch every day with our NICUs and our nurses and everyone that's going on and is in this COVID pandemic. So just a couple of slides about what's happening with March for Babies this year. So we re-virtualized March for Babies. It is now called the March for Babies Step Up campaign. And we're just asking everyone to step up and do their best for moms and babies at this time. It's not the time to back off from your support of your charity. This is the time to really step into it, step forward. And so we have a bunch of tools that have come out. So we have our usual tools, the March for Babies website. We still want people to register as a March for Babies participant. But we also have other things where you can connect it to Facebook. We've got a TikTok challenge that everyone's talking about. And some of us are like, oh dear, I'm gonna have to dance. That's a problem. The red guy down here is our Charity Miles, the little runner guy with the heart. And he represents this partnership that we opened up, a secondary app where you can track your steps and get pledges. So I know Annette on this call, she has like $4 per mile that she's getting for her Charity Miles. So Annette, get moving, move your hiney, right? The 5 steps to getting going, super easy. Register at March for Babies, update your page, put a story, make it personal. We'll get into more about the stories. Link to your social media accounts, and perhaps get the Charity Miles thing if that's something you're interested in doing, and then start stepping up. We do have a rally call that's coming up on May 15th. It's a national rally and recognition call. And so we'll be putting more information out on our Facebook page about that. So that is all about what we're doing in the larger world. So what we wanted to talk about today is story. We wanted to talk about telling your story authentically, what draws people to you, what do you wish that they knew about your experience, and how do you tell your story authentically, but also with impact. So we decided to invite someone who we think is especially skilled at this and give us some tips and training on it. So Chris Lima is with us. He's from the national office at March of Dimes. He's the visual program manager and senior producer for the March of Dimes. So everything that you see, all the images of this strong fighting for moms and babies, that's all coming through Chris's hands. So we are thrilled to have you, Chris, and I will let you share your piece.
Howdy. So I'm Chris Lima, and appearing in my professional March of Dimes headshot is my daughter, Emma. And she's about to turn 2, and for the last 3 months, daily, she's been trying to saddle our dog. So I'm sure you can all relate to what that's like. So next slide. Or do I click? Sorry. Nope. Aha. So how many of you have seen the Tim Burton film Big Fish? Just a wave of hands, or familiar with it. It's a really cool movie about storytelling. For me, when I walked into the theater, sat down, I think I was like one of the only people on the planet that had a reaction to this movie. I wasn't watching the movie. I was actually watching a portrayal of my grandfather. Not that the character in the movie was my grandfather, but my grandfather was this character. Like, my grandfather told the most outrageous stories. He could captivate an audience. You could see the room turn when he would start to go into his wind up into telling one of his stories. And after his passing, we started to learn that the majority of his stories were massive exaggerations, fabrications, lies, whatever you want to call them. But he wasn't like a rich man. He didn't have anything monetary to leave with us. But what he was doing with telling these stories about his life, or our family, how our family came to America, the stories behind that, which we don't have enough time on this call to talk to you, but if you want to, it's a crazy story if it's true. He was trying to make him memorable to us. And it's been 20 years since he's passed. And I don't think there's a day or a couple days that I go by where I don't think about one of the crazy things that he said, or just those times when we would sit and listen to his stories. So what he was doing was, again, he didn't leave us anything except, these memories, right? And this was his way of trying to give his life meaning, and trying to make sure that we will never forget him. And no matter how much therapy I go through, we will not forget him. He was a crazy dude. So my family has a superpower, and it's storytelling. We're a big Italian family, whether it's the Sunday dinners that we used to have prior to what's been going on lately, or Christmas or Thanksgiving or Easter. My grandfather's children, my dad, his two brothers, and his sister, or the grandchildren, or my cousins, nieces, nephews, we all, would get together around the table. And it's funny, we all tell the same stories. And every year the stories just get a little more whimsical, and our noses grow just a little bit longer, as we all kind of adapted our grandfather's or father's way of telling these stories. So I decided that I would use my superpowers, or my family superpowers, for good, and start working at the March of Dimes. So one of the big things that we do, and when I say we, there's another Chris Kennelly who works on our team. It's our privilege and honor to help our families, our mission families, tell their stories. So we help them craft them. We help them, really get to the emotional points. And we're also helping tell the March of Dimes story, which is another 80-year long, crazy, fantastic, amazing story. So how do we do that? And we'll go to the next slide. As somebody who likes videos and film, the majority of this presentation is going to be used with the helping of other films. The movie Up, back in 2009, I had just proposed to my wife, Kristen, and a couple weeks later we went to the movies to see the movie Up. I'm sure I would guarantee that almost everybody has seen this movie, or is familiar with at least the first 5 minutes of this movie. Without saying a single word, the director of this movie emotionally destroyed my wife and I in the first 5 minutes of the movie. It, again, just had proposed to my wife. We saw in 5 minutes the life cycle of the husband and wife that start off at the beginning of this movie. We saw them go through their life. And it was so devastating at the end when he loses her. Again, the director of this movie, without saying a single word, made us feel exactly what this husband was going through. He made us feel a particular way. He got the audience to have that feeling that he was feeling. So how do you, if you're a mission parent, if you're talking about the NICU, if you're talking about loss, if you're talking about a happy, healthy baby, a pregnancy where everything went right, how do you make your audience, whether it's a donor, if it's a corporation, if it's a friend, anybody that you're trying to, you're telling your story, how do you get that audience to feel your story? That pit in your stomach, or the lump in the back of your throat every time you think back to how lonely it was in the NICU, or that just god awful feeling when when you're recalling about losing a child. Like, how do we work on transferring that feeling to your audience, whether it's a one-to-one conversation or presenting in front of 200 people in a conference? So for us, storytelling is practice. Storytelling is a muscle. If you want to go to the next slide, please, Ginger. And just like any other muscle, you have to work it out. So what is storytelling's 5-pound weight? Where do you practice? When I'm working on coming up with a story, or even this presentation, right? Like, I'm in the shower thinking, how can I make this better? Or I'm walking the dog thinking to myself, maybe I'll take this out, or maybe I'll change this, or maybe we can pull something else in. When you're driving in your car, these are times where you can practice your story. You know your story better than anybody else in the world. But one of the things that we do, and working with our families, that story can be a 30, 45-minute journey, and you might not have that amount of time. You might only have 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes to tell your story. So how do you work on getting that story down and still be able to transfer those emotions or that feeling to your audience? And again, it's practicing. Maybe it's sitting in front of a mirror working on telling that story. One of the other things that we like to talk about is watching your audience, even if it's the first couple of times that you're telling the story. Like Ginger and I were talking yesterday, and there was a couple of things that I had said on our pre-call that I took out of this because, it wasn't going over well. Like I could see Ginger's reaction. So I said, you know what? All right, let's save that for another time, or let's just completely get rid of that part of the story. When we're working with our mission families, we hear a lot like our child spent 140 days in the NICU or 95 days in the NICU. That's it's a number, but sometimes numbers aren't emotions. So it's how do you take that number and say, could you imagine leaving your newborn child in the hospital, just walking out of that hospital? Could you imagine that feeling? Right? How do you it's another way of, instead of just hitting them with data, trying to figure out a way to emotionally connect to that person. We also get like a lot of medical information, right? NICU families are like just under doctors. The minute you become a NICU family, you basically are given your medical license, right? But the average audience, can't connect to that. So it's always refining and crafting that story and getting it to that sweet spot, that 2.5, 3 minute story that engages your audience. And the most important part of telling your story is when you're done, you want to be able to hit somebody up with an ask, like what is your end game with that story? Are you just telling them so that maybe that that they have a story and you want them to tell their story back to you? Is it you're talking to a corporate team that is there's just itching to give away $10,000 to support a NICU family support site? Know what your ask is and tailor your story or your message to that eventual ask, and to keep that audience engaged and just I don't have an ending. Which is probably the worst part of this. I lost the other part of my paper. I'll blame it on the dog. So yeah, I mean, again, story in 15 years, it took me forever. It took me 6 or 7 years to really learn how to properly tell these family stories. I had a mentor, my previous boss, who had been doing this for 20 years, and he was a master storyteller. He is a master storyteller. So I'm not going to say it's easy, but it is a muscle. It is something that you need to work on. And Ginger's actually giving us a great opportunity to work on telling our stories or work on crafting our stories. I think in the next couple of minutes. So.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate the words of wisdom. And I think, so the next bit, we were going to break everybody out, and we're going to take about 8 minutes, and we're going to have you introduce yourself to each other, share a short version of your story, maybe like what Chris had talked about, like find those emotional grip points, like those pieces where people can really identify or figure out like how to tell those highlights, and then end with your ask. So I am going to break everybody up into, I think we're going to do 3 breakout rooms, and then I will call everybody back together in a few minutes. And Chris, you're going into a room, so Hi, Jody.
Hi.
Hi. They're all in breakout rooms, but you can hang out with me for a minute.
Okay. I was running late to the call from work. I was just on another call, so
You're totally fine. We recorded it too. So um we just had Chris Lima, who's our he's actually the senior national director of March of Dimes video production. And he just shared some tips on telling your story with impact. And so it was pretty good. He did a pretty good job.
Okay.
So everybody is sharing their own stories and like talking about like those emotional touch points. And then we're going to pull them all back together, see if there's any highlights, and we'll explain some different tools that we have out there, and we'll close out. But yeah, we're thrilled to have you. Thank you for joining. What area are you in, Jody?
Michigan, so Macomb.
Yeah, this is our Michigan call. So Macomb, do you work with, is it Stephanie or Annette?
From the March of Dimes?
Yeah.
I work with Emma.
Oh, Anna. Okay, yeah. Anna's about to take over our call here. She'll take the second half of this piece. So.
And what time does the call go till? Does it go till 1?
We'll just have, we'll close out here in 5 minutes, and then we'll be done by 1. We'll be done by 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very
so
good.
Awesome. How's your virtual March for Babies going?
So, I had talked to Anna about it a couple weeks ago. Based on kind of where we're at in the situation, my big support has been through my work.
Yeah.
And I've had a series of promotions, which is good.
Yeah.
But with that comes some more stringent guidelines on how much I can reach out to people for, for donations. So I have to be a little more cautious of how I'm doing that. So I do have people that will support the efforts, family members and things like that, that'll still support. I honestly haven't even signed up. I just need to sign up and send my email.
You're fine. We understand. And we're actually keeping things open until August. Well, I mean, you can actually fundraise till the end of the year, but
yeah,
if you want to earn like prizes, that will close in August. So
yeah. And I don't know if I can't even remember if my we do the pumpkins for prematurity.
Oh yeah, okay.
I don't know if that applied to this team this year or last. I don't even know. I can't remember when we gave. I think we gave Anna the money last year at Jeff. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna pull everybody back together here.
I will just be quiet.
No, it's okay. It takes them a minute to come out, so they will pop back in. It's kind of, I haven't done the breakout rooms before, so it's a new thing.
I do them all the time for work.
Yeah, I mean, we have them done to us all the time. I just never have done the one where I sent them all away and then.
You have a lot of power with these rooms.
I love the room. Actually, I love the rooms because you do get to meet like more personally, and that's pretty cool. So. Let's see. Oops. Here they come.
Hey, Jody.
Hi.
How are you? I'm so glad you could make it.
I'm good. I'm sorry I'm late.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Anna's going to take it on from here. Is that right, Anna?
Yes, I'm ready. So I just I had an opportunity to share my story and to listen to other stories just a few minutes ago, and that is always extremely powerful, right? When we have a chance to tell others why we are so committed to the mission of the March of Dimes. And I think that sometimes it's hard as staff members to think about our whys because we're so involved into our everyday activities. But it's a wonderful reminder when we hear and when we share why we need to do everything we can to help families everywhere, right? Here in Mexico, everywhere. Everybody has babies to welcome to the world, and we want to make sure that their experiences are positive. Ginger, can you move to the next slide, please?
Absolutely.
One thing that I have noticed, and when we're sharing our stories, is that it's pretty much like when you are cooking or prepping your favorite recipe, right? And many times you need to make sure that you have all those key ingredients in place right before you start crafting your story, especially because nowadays we have the opportunity of sharing our stories through different medias, right? Facebook, social media, good old-fashioned email, mail. So we want to make sure that whenever you are sharing your story, you take a moment to think about what you want to say, how you want to say it, and what truly reflects your true you, right? We want you to speak from your heart. Some people are more comfortable sharing stories in social media. Some people are more comfortable in kind of on a one-on-one basis. So we do want you to follow, if you can, a few quick tips. It always works best if you can put your story on paper, right? Work with paragraphs, make sure that you know what you want to say, what you feel comfortable in sharing. Remember that some of these stories might be shared with others, and we want to make sure that you say whatever you feel comfortable in saying. Next, with all of us in many different ways, but all of these stories have a very powerful message. So make sure that you're telling it from your heart. Get to the why of your story and why you want to help, right? Yes, we all have a mission connection, but you may also have a very specific message that you want to share. Give a clear outline of how much money you want to raise. Don't be afraid of asking others for what you want. If you are walking, honoring a special birthday celebration, or if your daughter or niece was in the NICU for 150 days, which happens to be my case, and you want to raise $1,500. Make sure that the ask reflects that story that you're sharing with others, so they can relate to why you want to raise that particular monetary goal. Use pictures and photos. For example, in here you can see a couple of examples. I wanted to share with you a picture of Sasha. She's the beautiful girl in this picture here, and she's holding a picture when she was in the NICU. And what is super cool about this story is that as part of their journey, they are turning 15 years old. This Saturday they will be 15. So they are hosting a virtual party, and all of the profits, they didn't want any presents. All of their gifts and everything, they told family and friends, just make a donation for the March of Dimes, because that's what we want. That's how we want to share our story. So I thought that was super, super powerful and meaningful. So Ginger, can you go to the next slide? The next part that I wanted to share as part of our journey, I'm all about sharing how families can connect with other families that have gone through this journey, right? And the March of Dimes has a lot of resources. Here you can see some of them. Some of them will allow you to connect to other parents that have a NICU journey as well. Share Your Story is one of those opportunities that we have for you to meet other parents, other nurses all across the nation. We have over 1,000 members. They have conventions in the summer. They have a lot of activities going on for parents that have to go through that experience. We have another of our websites is Unspoken Stories, and this is more for the families that unfortunately experience a loss or miscarriage or a lot of challenges during their pregnancy. And the other one that we have kind of following the same narrative is the Wall of Remembrance, that allows you to write down the name of your child and remember him or her in a meaningful way. MyNICUBaby.org is another resource that we have for parents. And as you can tell, this is just a small example of all the different websites, blogs that March of Dimes has available to support not only mom, but dads and the other family members that are connected to the mission of the March of Dimes.
Thanks, Anna. I was going to launch a quick poll and then we will conclude. So I want to know which tool out of all the tools that are available to you at the March of Dimes you're most excited to use to tell your story or to connect with people. The March for Babies website, Facebook, Instagram. I didn't put TikTok. Maybe that's other. So if you give us an idea of which ones you like the best, that helps us to guide what we talk about with our teams. And we just have a couple more folks and then I will close this. All right. And the results are emphatically Facebook is where people are connecting with people. I feel like that's our generation. My daughter says Facebook is my generation. So, and then let me close that out. And then the last thing is just thank you guys so much for attending today. And we appreciate everything that you've done, all of the time that you've taken. I know it's a crazy season. We know that things are different and changing. And even if you aren't able to step up the way you normally do, you can still share your story and that still helps a lot. That helps raise the noise level, that helps us get the word out. And so we appreciate all of you taking the time to step up and we'll talk to you soon. We have another call in 2 weeks and it's stepping into summer. Same time of day, it'll be on a Wednesday at 12:15 and it's 2 weeks from now. I don't have the date in my head exactly. I think the 20th, is that right? And we'll stay on the line here and answer any questions. You can unmute yourself and we'd love to hear from you personally, but if you need to run, we understand too, and we'll say goodbye. So I'll stop sharing. Bring everybody back. Did anybody have any good discussions in their breakouts? Anything that you want to share?
Jody, can I put you in this spot? You probably knew that I was going to do that. But I'm super happy that you were able to make it. I know that I've known your family for several years, but I would love for the rest of the people on the call to hear your story because I think you're definitely the example of that family that is committed to supporting our mission. And this is a long journey for you. So would you mind sharing your why?
Sure. So, hi everybody, I'm Jody Clayton. I'm out of Macomb, Michigan, and I have 4 wonderful children. They are 10, 14, 14, and 17. And my oldest was a perfect pregnancy, all healthy. When I was 13 weeks pregnant with my twins, I started having complications and was told that the survival rates of either one of my children was less than 10% and we should abort. Obviously, we did not do that. Fast forward, I spent 6 months on bed rest, 3 months at Royal Oak Beaumont, had my boys just shy of 34 weeks, which really isn't that early, but my one son did not have any amniotic fluid. My water actually broke when I was 13 weeks pregnant.
Oh,
so he was full grown, struggled very quickly, went on the vent immediately. and he went on nitric oxide for 10 days. I think that was the max you could be on it. You know, all the rounds, he was the first one on the rounds. There was people from other hospitals that were coming to visit to see what he was on, because it was experimental at the time. Fast forward through a relatively uneventful NICU stay, which we were fortunate about. He came home, spent 1.5 years on oxygen at home. But when he was about 1 year old, one of the things my husband and I wanted to do was find out, we knew that the nitric was experimental drug, and we wanted to know who funded the research for it. So I asked our lung doctor at the time, I said, who funded this? I want to make sure we give back to whoever it is. And it was the March of Dimes. So I work for a global-based company. I had a big support group. They saw me go through what I went through. So I was like, hey, they have that walk thing. We'll do the walk. So I raised a good bit of money. We walked into the Port Huron office and handed over, I think it was $5,000 or $6,000. I think somebody fell out of their chair when we walked in with it. But the March for Babies has always been our big thing. And it's taught our kids just about giving back. I mean, I was telling Ginger, right, we do the Pumpkins for Prematurity, which is just a sticker type thing we do in October. My kids love helping with the chef auction. I was kind of a big proponent of, hey, let's get the kids involved, especially now that they're older and they can see what it means to give back. And we were an ambassador family for several years, I know. So hopefully that helps, and not more than what you wanted, but truly we've raised, I know, tens of thousands of dollars through different venues, and it's a lot of fun and wonderful group of people.
Thank you, Jody. That's amazing.
I think that's exactly what I was looking for. So I know you guys are amazing, and your kids are fantastic, and your husband and your in-laws. This is truly a family affair for you guys, and I cannot thank you enough for everything that you guys continue to do.
My favorite memory, though, Anna, is when my boys spoke at the chef.
Yeah. They
were in 5th grade, and they spoke, and they were so darn cute. I still have the video. And we just laughed because they were just in their little tuxes. That was my favorite.
Oh my gosh. Jody, we had a question for you here.
Uh-oh.
No, it's okay.
What's that?
You said you had a 4th and it was a healthy pregnancy, is that right?
Yeah, so healthy pregnancy, didn't have any complications. I had her 3 weeks early because my C-section with my twins was emergency, so they couldn't have me go into labor. But yeah.
Got it.
And for me, it truly was my only kind of non-eventful pregnancy, because my father unfortunately passed away 10 days before I had my oldest. So he had just passed away, and I was having my first. I didn't know what to think. So when we went to have our 4th, we get into the OR because it was a C-section. Like, what kind of music you want to listen to? And everyone was all bubbly. I mean, with the boys, there was like 87 people in there. I was in a full-fledged panic because I was very calm until then, but I knew it was time to face the music when I went in there. I didn't know I was going to have 2 healthy babies, 1 healthy baby, 2 blind babies, it was endless. But yeah, so I had 0 complications, and it was only 1, which was good because I didn't want 2 more.
What a story. Thank you for sharing that. I see Nicole's got baby Willow. Hi, Willow. Hi, Willow.
I got lunchtime.
Freebies in here if you want to see them, if I can find them.
How old are they now?
They'll be 15. They're getting their driver's permits. God help us all. Let me go see if I can.
Elsie, what's been going well for you this season?
Is Connor here somewhere?
Is that for Elise?
Elise, I'm sorry. Yes.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I get it all the time.
Yeah. What's been going well? Yeah.
Just, we've been doing it for so many years too, that just kind of the traditional, I've created my own Facebook page for our team. And, I found that people, if I don't get the word out, people will start asking me, isn't that coming up?
That's awesome.
So I've kind of got people conditioned. So,
I like that.
Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
It's obviously been slower this year, but.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you sticking with us and being here even in the pandemic, right? Like,
here's my boys. You
Oh
gotta
my gosh.
let me
Hi.
shut off my background so it doesn't look so.
They're disappearing into the office, right?
Yeah, just 1 second here.
That's so funny.
None. That
Hi,
should help.
guys.
Yeah, there you go. See there.
Yeah, they're taller than you.
4 ounces, he was 413.
Oh my
Yep.
gosh.
Like 5'9", and I'm 5'2". So
Jody, when were they born?
June 6, 2005.
Okay, because I had June 2nd, 4'10", 4 pounds, 10 ounces, and he's 15. So
Yeah.
we were both busy that year.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So they have
awesome.
no haircut. People are closed, so we got some craziness going on here.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks, guys, for saying hi. I think that's it. If anybody else has any questions, your directors are around. And Chris, thank you so much for joining us. And we will sign off and wish you well on this gorgeous day in Michigan. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.